If I told you that there were two principles that could answer any question you'll ever have about insomnia, would you like to hear those principles? I hope you say yes, because that's, of course, exactly what we're going to talk about today in this episode. I wanted to start the year off with something I hope will really bring a lot of value and clarity to you, and Happy New Year, of course, to you. And if you're wondering why I'm here in like ski gear, it is because we just came home from our local mountain. And I really wanted to do this video, and even before getting the house warmed up and everything, I was like, sometimes you have this feeling, right? I got to do this now. I can't hold it. And I felt like got to do this now. So that's why I'm in kind of unusual garb here. But anyways, what we're going to look at today are the two foundational Natto principles. I've actually written a newsletter about this. This may be repetition for some of you, but I ponder this for at least like 6 to 8 months, and I think something really helpful here. And again, something really foundational. Like every teaching you'll ever find will be based on these two principles for sure. So what we're going to talk about is the principle of effortlessness, which is the first one, and then the second principle, which is the principle of survival. Then we're going to get practical and see how can we use this insight. And then we're going to look at some violations of the principles that are common. And then there's a twist. There's a twist in the end that's, I think, really interesting one. Anyway, so without further ado, let's look at the principle of effortlessness. And this one goes as follows: peace of mind and peaceful sleep require nothing. They are effortless. They're effortless. They truly require nothing. And if you're looking for some proof of this, then you can think about like asking someone who slept peacefully or experienced a peaceful moment what they did to get that, and or how they can repeat that reliably. Like, how can you get that over and over again? And the answer will be something like, I don't know, because truly, when we slept really well, it's because we didn't try at all. There was no effort. And in peace of mind, strange as it may sound initially, it's like peace of mind happens actually in the absence of any dominating or any strong emotion. We're not particularly sad, and by the way, these are kind of the 4 core emotions: sadness, happiness, fear, anger, disgust. Peace of mind happens when we're not particularly sad, angry, fearful, or disgusted, and not particularly happy either. And this is a common confusion. Oftentimes, even in some really foundational documents here in the US, and I'm sure other places in the world as well, it says we have the right to liberty, justice, and I'm going to misquote this, but I know part of it is like the pursuit of happiness, right? And we can think that that's what we want. We want happiness, but in reality, just like all the other emotions, happiness is just a signal. It's just a practical little signal that urges us to do something or rewards us for doing something. But it's none of these emotions are designed for permanent state. They're just like practical little signals. And when sometimes we get confused and think like, oh, happiness is something I should have all the time. Not really. Actually, what we would like to have is peace of mind. There's no happiness feels good for a second, but there's a level of excitement there. Like, it's not entirely peaceful, and peaceful mind is very, very nice. That little side note there. But I think that's really helpful, because when we see that peace of mind requires nothing, it's in fact, in the absence of any strong emotion, we have peace of mind. Then itself can really take a weight off our shoulders, and we see like, oh, what we want requires nothing. So anyway, really, this is our first principle, and adding sleep to this, sleep really reflects our emotional state. So with peace of mind, peaceful sleep happens as well. So that's the first principle. And the second principle is that of survival. It goes as follows: that survival is the only priority of any living organism. If you look at anything in nature, an insect, why do they have like big eyes? Well, it's because they can see things easily, so they survive. Like, why does a plant have leaves? Well, of course, it's for photosynthesis and things like that. It's for everything is for survival. And we're no different. Like, why do we have eyebrows or nails or like a nose? Like, it's all for survival. Like anything that is alive, its priority is survival. And the human brain, no difference. The human brain is a survival machine. All it's designed for, truly, if we think about it, is survival. of ourselves as individuals or our species, our neighbors, our, family members, etc. It's a survival machine. So when the brain is facing a real or imagined threat, it will deploy a defensive safety emotion until it believes we are safe. And what are those defensive safety emotions? Well, if we go back here and look at our 5 core emotions, 4 of them, actually 5 core emotions, and 4 of them are defensive safety emotions, and they're sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. Fear is the most common one. Fight or flight, that's kind of very obvious how that helps us survive. Anger too, that's when the odds are good, we fight back. That's a good safety mechanism sometimes. Disgust, right? That's the safety signal, like don't eat that can be dangerous. Sadness too. Sadness is kind of like maybe not do anything right now. Just stay where you are. Just stay still. Maybe get some empathy from other people by showing that you're sad. But these are all like defensive safety emotions or signals. Happiness is a opportunistic, emotion. It's like when something that can like improve our survival in kind of opportunistic way. Let's do this. That's where happiness comes in. Now, going back here, whenever our brain thinks we are in some type of danger, it will deploy one of these 4 defensive safety emotions until it believes we are safe. And fear is the most common one. And fear, as part of fear, we have this hyper arousal, this heightened state of alertness. We're looking for things, monitoring things. We're like, our senses are heightened, right? So that's the principle of survival. Now we covered it. That is it. Like all our teachings, all the entire Natto philosophy really rests on these 2 foundational principles. But what's the practical benefit of knowing about them? So that's what we're going to look at next. So now we're going to get practical here. And as promised, in the title here, all questions really can be answered from these principles. And to do that, let us categorize all our questions and say that all questions about insomnia really are either a should question or a why question. A should question or a why question. So what are those? So let's look at them one by one. So first, we're going to look at should questions. What are should questions? They are, should I stop drinking coffee? Should I not watch TV before I go to bed? Do I have to journal every day? Is it important that I don't talk to my friends about sleep? Do you recommend that I take the supplement? Like, is it better to stay home in the evening, or is it better to this? Basically all these, like when you wonder, like, should I do this? Is this important? What is it? That those can be categorized as should questions, with a question of like, what should I do? Basically, those are should questions. And then we have why questions, which is like, why does my heart beat so fast when it's after 6 p.m.? Like, is it normal that I am awake all night, but I fall asleep as the sun rises? What does it mean when I have the same thought over and over and over again? Like, have other people had tinnitus as part of their insomnia? These are basically questions of like, why is this happening to me? Like, what's going on with me? Those I categorize as why questions. And now we're going to get practical here. So when you have a should question, the answer is in the first Natto principle, the principle of effortlessness. And to illustrate this, we can ask, I wrote down a random one, like, should I journal every day? Maybe you heard someone say that that's a nice thing to do. But the answer really is in this, in the principle of effortlessness and the intent behind the idea to journal. So journaling in itself, like just writing down things on a piece of paper in itself, doesn't necessarily have any like predictable outcome whatsoever, right? It does not in itself necessarily lead to where we want to be. But anything that leads to less effort, to a more effortless place, helps, including exposing ourselves to what we have tried to avoid and without trying to escape. So for example, we may have had these like racing thoughts, what we call like intrusive thoughts, like, we label as intrusive or negative because we don't want it, right? We had these thoughts like, and basically the thoughts have led to us becoming scared. They've been scary thoughts, and we try to escape this emotion by like thinking like, how do I stop these things? I don't want to think about this. Which is tricky because they're just amplified and they lead to the opposite of effort. We're trying to escape something, right? So journaling, for example, can mean that we're like now willing to hear the thoughts, we're willing to experience the difficult emotion. And in that sense, like when we do it with that intent, it leads to less effort. We're more willing to experience whatever happens without any effort, right? So, the intent really helps. And this is where, like, always keep in mind when you have a should question, the principle of effortlessness. Am I on a path towards less effort or more effort? Same thing with this one, like, should I get out of bed when I can't sleep? And I wrote this down. Leaving or staying in bed does not lead to where we want to be by itself. But anything that leads to less effort helps. So you see, I just copy pasted the rest of this. So again, if the intent with getting out of bed is because, well, getting out of bed can make it more okay with being awake. I don't have to do anything about this. Less effort, then this is the way. So this is how. So again, should questions we can answer with the first principle. When we have a why question, the answer lies in the second Natto principle. And these are questions like, why is my heart racing at bedtime? Is it common to have tinnitus? Why is this happening? Are these jerks normal? It's kind of why questions, right? And the answer to these really lie in the principle of survival, because as we've seen, with when the brain thinks we're in danger, it's going to deploy one of these safety emotions, one of these four safety emotions, and they can lead to, for example, fear leads to a racing heart, racing heart rate, right? Tinnitus is very common when we are hyper aroused and we notice things that we haven't noticed before. Jerks happen when we're hyper aroused. So the point here is that when we think something is sort of strange or unusual, we're wondering why this has happened, why this is happening to us. Then the answer, when it comes to insomnia, is in the principle of survival. We understand that, okay, my brain thinks I'm in danger. It's deploying this strong emotion, and with this emotion can come all these experiences. Then we have the answer to why something is happening. Of course, this is not medical advice. It's just me, teaching general principles. Like, there can be things outside of of emotions driving experiences that we have, but in the context of kind of inner struggles, these are the two principles that really guide us. Now, 4 here, violation of principles. And I just added this for further education and deeper understanding. So check this one out. I slept great, but it was only because I took valerian root extract. The reason I slept like peaceful sleep came from taking this thing. What principle are we violating here? Or is being violated here, I should say. You're right. It is a violation of the first principle. If we believe this is true, then there is a violation here, because basically we're saying is that something apart from effortlessness made us sleep really well, which is a violation of the first principle. And the true reason is delegation here. That when we, for example, take some valerian root extract and we think, oh, this will take care of it for me, then effortlessness has happened because we delegated the presumed effort required for sleep. It's been delegated, which leads to effortlessness. And now, the principle is restored. Like, now it's not violated anymore. Now we see that, oh, it was effortlessness that led to peaceful sleep. Now, how about this one? Other people have success. They just stopped caring. Other people just stopped caring. And this is for somebody who wants to stop caring and sees other people have done that. But this is actually a violation of the second principle. Those other people have not just completely stopped caring of whether they sleep or not. They're like, it's indifferent to me. I don't care if I sleep or not. That is not true. Everything that is alive wants to survive and do well. Like, we all want to, feel healthy, feel whole, feel sound. We all want to survive. Everything that wants to live, everything that is alive does care about anything that, they're experiencing. So if we think that, oh, I have to make myself not care, that's not human. That's not actually, you know um, possible for anything that is alive to not care about anything, right? So the true reason here is really that education in work led to less attachment. A person who says like, well, I don't care if I sleep or not, it doesn't mean that they don't care. It just means that if I don't care, if I don't sleep, well, it's something that can happen. I'm willing to experience that, something to that effect. So that second principle can also be violated. Now, the twist. What is this twist that I was talking about in the beginning? Well, here it is. The principle of effortlessness and the principle of survival in many ways are juxtaposed. They're sort of like, in many ways, kind of, they're sort of like opposing forces. It's like when unmovable, like they're both so true. Like, so it's that kind of like the immovable object meets an unstoppable force. Like there can be friction there. And, you know, on one hand, I just illustrate this. Everything we want as humans, we want that peaceful, like peace of mind, the blissful state that when there's no strong emotion, we just the peace of mind. We want that. That comes from not trying, but our brain is hardwired to trying, like trying to see if we're in danger, trying to escape danger. It's hardwired for that. So I really think that all human suffering comes from like the friction between these two principles, if you will, these two truths. And on one hand, that can make us feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm a human being and I'm stuck here and like I'm going to have all this suffering. Not at all. Like I want to say that on one hand, seeing the second principle of survival, I personally believe that the like being kind of completely enlightened, being in a place like, of complete serenity every moment of our lives, I think is not possible, honestly, because the brain's it's a survival machine. It's always going to look for things to be like, how about this? How about that? Should, like, we're always going to have a little bit of like, a little bit of those survival emotions, But here's the point. I think education, when we understand things and we're seeing like, oh, this is happening for this reason, it doesn't require any intervention. Like education leads us to more and more of what we want. Even if we have a survival machine brain, like, we can educate ourselves about like what's a real threat and what's not a real threat. And then, 2023, in the situation most of us live in, there aren't that many like real tangible threats, like, grizzly bears out there to hunt us. So like with education, I think we can all have more what we want: more peace of mind, more peaceful sleep. And that is it. That's conclusion of this teaching around the two principles. And as always, let me know what you think about it. Did it make sense? Any questions? Because really, questions and feedback is what keeps our philosophy evolving and developing. So yeah, we'll conclude there. Happy New Year. And I'm glad to be back. And, from now on, our typical program is going to resume. And I hope to see you back real soon. For now, bye-bye.